EPI is a global training. You have a global training certification program for data centers. It's quite fascinating to have a specific field like data centers to have a course dedicated to bring future intellectuals into the field. I know there are a lot of changing times right now. So to get to my point, can you introduce us a little bit more about what EPI does? And I know there's a scholarship program. Can you tell us more about your futurist scholarship program as well?
Sure. I guess to give you a bit of background about EPI, EPI was founded 35 years ago. The business was originally founded as a company that provided data center certification. And what we do now is we provide design verifications. We also provide audits of data centers, but a large component of that is actually training. So we provide specialized training to the industry. It's something we provide globally. We've got offices in 9 different locations. Our headquarters are in Singapore. But obviously with the huge shortage of people that are available in the industry right now, training has become more and more important. And the skill shortage is something that people are really starting to feel a lot of pressure and trying to deal with internally. So our training has obviously added a lot of value to the industry. I think the scholarship program was a way for EPI to try and attract talent into the industry. What we've done, we've aimed the scholarship program predominantly at students, people who are currently unemployed, but also people who are looking to make the jump into the industry. One of the most difficult things about, the industry at the moment is attracting talent, and talent that we can retain and grow. And I think the problem too is because the industry's grown so quickly, a lot of people come in, but they don't have experience related to the industry. It's what we call adjacent experience. So the training solves a lot of those problems for our clients. But at the same time, with the scholarship program, we're hoping to attract new candidates into the industry.
Data center professionals, when I talk to them and interview them, they don't start out straight ahead from the data center. They have adjacent or, similar experience to the data center industry. And then that kind of builds up eventually for them to go ahead to, the DC sector. So that was the normal course up until now. But now it's a different story. There are specialized training courses. Now, can you introduce what it's about, who you're targeting for? I mean, you got to have some type of knowledge or, some expertise to actually have, go through those and complete those courses, right? So,
well, look, I think anyone that's been in the industry for a while will benefit from the training that we provide. It tends to be quite specialized based on whatever discipline, the people in the industry are currently in. I think the aim with the scholarship program was to provide foundational knowledge in the industry itself. But you're right, a lot of the people that have come into the industry have in many ways fallen into it. You don't necessarily set out to join the data center industry. You study to become an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, and you'll be hired by a company that's looking to bid on projects in the industry. The biggest problem with that, though, is that you often have people coming into the industry without much experience. And while there might be very competent engineering professionals and people with, experience that would be related to the data center industry, they haven't necessarily worked on a lot of projects in the industry itself. And as a result, it's difficult for them to sometimes understand exactly what's required with some of these projects. And I think they don't necessarily talk the same language as the people who've been in the industry for a while, particularly when it comes to data centers where, we're building mission critical, facilities. Downtime is something that is just not really something we really want to ever think about. And as a result, the people that are coming into the industry, they need to wrap their heads around that a little bit more. The training that we've put together is really built around, making sure people are working towards best practice standards. And the better they understand the best practice standards that we train them for, the more suited they are, I guess, to the roles that they would be hired into. So that's the way we're dealing with it. Look, from EPI's perspective, we work closely with TIA, the Telecommunications Industry Association. Most of our training is built in and around that particular standard. It's a highly comprehensive standard that basically means we cover most of the disciplines that are vital to the data center itself. And then the training is geared up to provide different people, as I mentioned earlier, in different disciplines. So if someone is more focused on engineering, well, we've got courses that aim specifically at the engineering side of, the data center. If we've got people who are in operations, we've got courses that aim specifically at operations, but always with best practice, in mind.
How does having like a set course provided by EPI stand out from, each company has on-the-job training? So is it kind of different from on-the-job training?
Very much so. Look, there's no replacement for practical experience. There never will be. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, the biggest difficulty a lot of people have coming into the industry is that when you look at the people who built this industry, most of them started off 20, 25 years ago building small server rooms. It would have been the people at IBM and, the vendors that were building enterprise class facilities that would have been 1-2 megawatts in size. These days, when you look at the size and the scale of the projects, we're talking 30, 40, 50 megawatt plus facilities. A lot of the younger people coming into the industry don't really have the same grounding and foundation in the industry that a lot of the more experienced people do. And as a result, they're often not quite sure how to apply some of what the more experienced guys would have learned over the years. The training that we provide, because it's based on a best practice framework, ensures that we're giving people adequate knowledge and skills so that they can put things together. If you look at it, someone comes in, they tend to be quite specialized. They might be an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, but they might not fully understand the full impact of some of the other disciplines in the data center itself. So by training people holistically, you can give them a far better understanding and overview of the facility as a whole, and that just helps them develop their own understanding and skills.
With the AI hype all going on, I know you're going to have to update your training soon, probably with the emergence of ChatGPT and, whatnot. And I know that AI itself is transforming the data center industry as a whole in the cloud and the sheer scale of it all. So do you have, if not, prep courses for AI specialists or AI, data center operators that are trying to apply the AI hype into their industry?
Not yet. It's probably something that we will have to develop in time. I think when you look at the impact AI is having on the data center industry right now, most of it is really based on, the extra demands it places on the need for additional power capacity that's required. We're not 100% sure exactly what sort of impact it's going to have on the design of the data center just yet. People are trying to make predictions on the way it will go. There's talk about newer technology like immersion cooling systems, which we're starting to see adopt a little more widely. But it's going to take a long time before that becomes more widespread. What you'll find is that while innovation has been occurring in the data center industry, it happens relatively slowly. And the reason for that is that the infrastructure required to construct these facilities doesn't change to a large degree every year, which allows best practice standards to develop around the construction of these facilities and the ongoing operation of these facilities. So I guess as AI starts to become, this is something we need to deal with more and more, the industry will gradually innovate and keep up. And as a result, you'll find that the certifications around it, the way we validate design and the way we approach the construction will gradually evolve with it. It's difficult to predict exactly what will happen with the industry though, because it's really hard to see exactly how things look in 5-10 years time. I think we're at the tip of the iceberg here.
You talk about the best practices standard, the framework, and I, as a tech journalist, understand that standards set forth by the TIA, and these are international standards that if you abide by it, there are so much advantages. But from a country where I'm from, like Korea, governments have regulations that are not based on TIA practices. Obviously, they have not been through the training courses of EPI. So in order for, you are targeting young professionals, but what about those government regulations, market practices? They sway, businesses sway from regulation to another. So do you have any top-down approach to, target them?
So what you'll find is that most of the capital that is being allocated to these projects is coming from global digital infrastructure funds, large private equity firms, and a lot of the standards and compliance requirements that are being set are actually being set by the fundies as opposed to government itself. The reason for certification in first place is to ensure that you've got a third-party audited process of the facility and everything from design to construction, ongoing operations. And it's a way to reduce your risk. So as an investor, it's crucial that you've got an extra set of eyes, an impartial guide to go through, have a look to make sure everything is up to standing. And doing that, you reduce your risk. And I think what you'll find is that it's effectively private sector that drives public sector approach as much as public sector are the target. So it's a combination of both. From EPI's perspective, we obviously engage directly with the public sector where we can, but a lot of it is just driven by the funders themselves and the companies that actually operate these facilities.
Okay. We're going to see if the internet connection is well enough. Carl, do you hear us? Can you hear us?
Hey, Jenny. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Sure, we can hear you. Do you have a question for Dean?
Yeah, hi, Jenny. We saw like what skills that. I was curious if you this and we call it with sense of skills gap as a whole, and also, these lots that have new candidates and that type to move into the industry.
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, you'll find that in developing markets in particular and have that skills base can actually support these projects locally. So it's actually leading to an increase in cost of construction simply because you have to import skills in many cases. So look, one great thing that you've seen so far with the scholarship program is that obviously how a lot of it coming out of developing markets. You had about 500 applicants so far, and most of those have come from the subcontinent and the Middle East, which is also seeing tremendous amount of it. So we think it's going to make, hopefully make some inroads, but quite frankly, I don't think the touch sides when we look at how much demand there is for skills. And I think it's one of the reasons why, particularly the operators, need to invest in training a lot more aggressively if they want to develop not just their own personnel, but the other local industry and give themselves access to, the sorts of resources that will the type best with the come out this way.
Wow, it's severe. Yeah. My question is, can you share how, since we're in Malaysia, I know you're based in Singapore, but Singapore and Malaysia are quite go together. So how is Malaysia, they're going through this digital transformation and they have supportive government policies. So how is the development of, the capable and forward-thinking data center operators here? How is the labor talent here? I know some people have said that there are still some lacking in places like Johor. So how do you tackle those, differences in skills or types of skills at the skill levels bring them in moderate level?
I think the big thing with Malaysia is that it has some significant advantages with geography, and the moratorium on construction in Singapore is going to be and has to be beneficial for Malaysia. Like I mentioned earlier, I think the big thing that with the more capital that's invested in the more projects that kick off, and more opportunity there is for people on the ground to develop the skills that they also require. And it's also fundamental that companies invest in training for their people. I think one of the things that I've seen in a lot of success in providing training like we have over the years, I think there's still a lot of underinvestment in training. And if companies are serious about being able to develop the skills internally, they're trying to invest a lot more in training themselves. I think the problem is, and this is what you'll find in most industries, people tend to try and hire experienced people from their competitors. So many people to buy around in these industries. You've got to start thinking outside the box a little bit more. I think the one thing that Malaysia's got for it is you've got, they put a strong technical trained population that could make it new towards the data center industry with some guidance and help.
From EPI.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, of course. All right, thank you for your time. It was a lovely interview for your insight, for your loyal. Thank you, Carl.
No, for fun.
Thanks, guys.